Okay, we are taking a walk. It is August 5, 2012, and we're going to make a pretty jittery video, but hopefully most of it can be taken out by the YouTube process. That's the way it works with these on-the-move videos. Boy, when it takes it out, it makes things look really strange. Well, as we come into the garden here, I have to say this year is probably going to go down as my worst gardening year ever, because so many things went wrong. So if you go back and if you're following these videos here at all, I had high hopes at the beginning of the season. These are the pots that I start growing squashes and things like that in. I had a really hard time getting any squashes growing, and precious few of them did I get to transplant into the garden once they get going. And I bought some, in fact, and put them in the garden, and they didn't even do anything. I haven't gotten a single squash yet, and here it is. So that's horrific. And I really don't know what the problem is. I don't really see a lot of bugs on them, but they seem to just either not grow far enough or wither up or whatever. Here comes one of our two garden visitors that we have. We have the fluffy Angora, and we have this new guy here, Benji, who we rescued a number of months ago. And he's learning to love his home. Anyway, this worked out well this year, and it is doing well this year. I'm trying to think what this is called. Okra. Yeah. There's one of the pods right there. So we will get some okra. Got 2 pots of this stuff with pods growing in them. So that's good. If you can't tell what that looks like, it's carrots. I doubt they're very big, but my granddaughter loves them. There's some Swiss chard in here, which we have harvested some of. And it's starting to grow back again. I think Judy cut way too much. She just like snip everything, you know. What you should do is pull the long leaves off and let the smaller ones grow out. And you get a more continuous crop because you don't starve it for energy of the sun. This is just starting to come into its own. This is the bean wall that I love to start. Benji's rubbing my foot. This is pole beans, and I actually planted more this year than ever before. We'll see how it works out, but I did get beans this year. I got beans that were bush beans. So for beans this year, it's been okay. For tomatoes, they're coming in now. It's okay, except there was a problem. Oh, I just realized I have another thing here to harvest. And this is another one of the problems. I took pictures that if you go back and look for them, you'll see these plants over here devastated. They're not as high as they would have been by a woodchuck. 2 woodchucks, as it turned out. I caught 2 of them and relocated 2 of them. But some of them were completely decimated, some partially. I left the partially ones, and they did come back, and this is what has formed. And it looks like there will be some Brussels sprouts come from them. I planted about 6 more. So I thought. Turns out they have similar leaves, if you look at what those leaves look like, but this is what they are. Recognize that? Yep, it's broccoli. That is actually right there the largest broccoli floret I've ever grown. I never had any luck with broccoli, so maybe some good came out of the swap. But there were 2 swaps that I got this year. One was the not getting Brussels sprouts, getting broccoli. The other was not getting cherry tomatoes, getting large tomatoes. That one I'm very upset about because we love cherry tomatoes. We're not going to get any this year. So between woodchucks, seed, plant swaps at the nursery, and I don't know what other factors this year has not been great. Maybe the heat, maybe bugs, I'm not sure, but no squash. I really missed the squash. And we didn't get very many cucumbers, so that's kind of a squash in its own. We got just a few. So this has been a lousy year squash-wise, and I have them every so often, and then I'll have a good squash year. Last year was a good one. So I don't know what makes a difference. These is something different I grew this year, but I have grown before. And then I just picked a bunch of them, but there's a bunch more to come. If you can see, I can get it in there. These are red peppers, currently green. And they don't really turn red. They turn this really icky looking red-brown color. So I've been picking them early. This, as I telegraphed the last time is the wall of glory, morning glory that is. And in fact you can see them flowering. My kitty is loving me up here. Yep, there's not a lot of them blooming now like there could be because it is morning, and I've seen it when this whole area is just nothing but blooms, but I don't get out here in the morning enough. But it's longer this year than it was last year, and each year it just spreads itself a little bit further because they drop their seeds, I guess, and they take root quite nicely, and on it goes every year. So I have to pull out the vines and wait for the next year. Some of them are growing in this little planter where I started them. I don't know if you can see it down the bottom of that. The rest of them are just growing wild right out of the ground next to the fence, and I just let them go. So it's becoming one huge wall of glory. I don't know where it'll stop. At some point I'll have to decide that, you know, it's gone far enough. I'll either pull them out by hand, most likely, or I could apply spray and dye to them. I don't really like to do that. That's Roundup, and that'll kill them right to the root. But that's the wall of glory. Okay, so a lot of these turned out to be Brussels sprouts of the new ones I planted, but I mean turned out to be not Brussels sprouts, but turned out to be broccoli. These are the tomatoes. We are getting some, and you will see a few that are orange here. I've picked all the bright red ones today. There's 3 rows of these, and usually the way that works is I have 1 row of each type. I have the cherries in 1 row, the medium size in 1 row, and the beefsteaks in 1 row. I have harvested beefsteaks and I have harvested mediums, but there are no cherries. That's how I know I didn't get any. Oh, there's another little teeny weeny. That's what I used to get usually, little tiny broccoli florets. This is bush beans, and they're doing a second flowering. I just picked a few. It's nowhere near as bountiful as the first flowering, but it does get you some. This is corn. This is stunted this year too. I had some kind of a little critter. It wasn't the woodchuck actually. It was a smaller critter that was also getting in here. It might have been a mole or God knows what, but something very small that was getting in here and was eating the baby corn plants. It ate probably half of them, and I had to replant. So that got them off to a late start. Plus the hot summer, and it's not easy to water with a watering can like I do. So we didn't get rain to help me along, the drought. It's really stunted. I'm only going to get a few little ears. I picked a few today that actually are ready. They're tiny little things. In fact, I'll show you what one looks like, 'cause I think this one's about the same size and about ready to pick. Where was it? I saw it here. Yeah, right here. It's about as good as it gets. So then there's another row of tomatoes. Now, this is interesting. These plants here are, and over here also, same thing. You know what those are? Those are Jerusalem artichokes. Judy wanted to try them out. We ordered some, put them in 2 different places. I read on what to do with them. You have to wait until fall comes and the greenery starts to go away, because you don't want to just, you know, pull them up prematurely, because what they're doing is feeding the artichoke, which is the bottom of the plant, the bulb you eat. It's like a potato. So you want as much of this above ground stuff feeding it as you can. We'll see how this turns out in the fall. I may take some snapshots. And this is the cat mint. I bought a small little chunk of it. Look at how it's spread out. I haven't harvested any of it, but I guess you pick it, let it dry out, crinkle it up, and cats eat it. I also have some catnip over in the other corner, standard catnip, to do the same thing with. So when it gets near the end of the season, I will snip all this stuff and put it in a bag out, and the same with the catnip, and wait for the next year for it to come out. And then there's this one other thing. Oh, this really shows nicely from here. Wow, I hadn't seen it from this perspective. Towering far above the garden is the giant sunflower. I planted, I don't know, 4 or 5 of them. A couple got eaten up by the little critter or something. A couple others didn't really get going. This one did, and boy did it get started, and it had everything to itself. So it is big and it is mean, and it's a giant sunflower. Yeah. Now, that's a beauty. That's the best sunflower ever that I've grown. Oh, I can't tilt it. I was going to tilt it, but it doesn't work. Best sunflower ever. Beat that, Scott. And my little kitty is still following me around like a little lost puppy, rubbing me. She likes it here. He likes it. I keep calling him a she because we've always had girl cats. And he's the first boy we've had in a long time. He was a little bit of a terror in his old house. He gets play mixed up with loving. So when you start patting him, he may grab you or try to bite you, but you know, you have to keep reprimanding him, and he's getting better all the time. And he's not a he's not a lap cat. He doesn't like coming up in your lap. But he has warmed up to a lot of other things, like beds. First bed cat I've had in quite a while. So he's turned out to be a good kitty, good rescue. I may yet rescue one more, we'll see. And with that, I am going to stop. And I don't know if I'll come back here as this. This is probably the peak of the garden. I did that last year. I got the garden at peak. And then I don't remember if I got it as it was being, you know, as it was withering away and things are dying and you start pulling things out. Tomato plants die and you pull them out, other plants, etc. The last thing standing is the Brussels sprouts. Actually, Brussels sprouts, and this year the Jerusalem artichokes will probably be standing. I think that does it. I want to keep it a little short and sweet.